Imagine if our solar system isn't as solitary as we once believed. What if there's real evidence pointing to colossal extraterrestrial spacecraft near Saturn? And what if these beings aren't just distant, but closer to us than we ever thought possible? American scientist Bob Dean unveils information about 12 intelligent species that could potentially be operating among us and throughout the solar system. But who are these beings, and what are their intentions? Secrets of Saturn. It appears that we know less about Saturn than science claims. While several probes have already visited the gas giant, and recently the Cassini mission explored Saturn and its moons for over 20 years, something significant seems to have eluded us. There are rumors of extraterrestrials operating around Saturn. They have reportedly positioned their spacecraft behind the planet, where it's not easily detectable from Earth. According to Bob Dean, these extraterrestrials are not easy to decipher because they fully or partially shift into another dimension. Apparently, some of the dust and rocks that make up certain Saturn's rings contain rare minerals that serve as food or fuel for this form of life. Does this all sound incredibly far-fetched to you? Hold on tight because it gets even better, and Bob Dean even has photos to back it all up. Bob Dean served in the U.S. Army from 1960 to 1967, including during the Korean War and the Vietnam War. He held the rank of Command Sergeant Major. However, the nature of Dean's work at NATO during his service remains unclear. Dean's claims about extraterrestrial life and his criticisms of organizations such as NASA and NATO have been met with skepticism. At the Barcelona EX Politics Summit on July 25, 2009, he made a public statement, saying, "There are intelligent races that are a billion years ahead of us. We're finding stars that probably have planets. These planets may be 3 times older than our star." In the spring of 2023, the U.S. Senate held hearings, and the focus was on the Pentagon rather than NASA. Allegedly, the Pentagon has had knowledge of extraterrestrial beings for a long time, but has not shared this information with ordinary soldiers, officers, or the general public. Some fighter pilots who have encountered unidentified flying objects, UFOs, took action against the Pentagon, seeking the opportunity to speak without facing ridicule and backlash. Anyone delving into this subject will likely be shocked by how many spacecraft pilots encounter each year. In general, current events seem to confirm what Bob Dean spent his entire life trying to convey to humanity. Dean shared numerous photographs, some of which were later allegedly appropriated by NASA. This photograph of a peculiar flying object was taken by the astronauts of the Apollo 12 mission. The photo was captured by Alan L. Bean, one of the astronauts of the mission. Alan L. Bean was the 4th person to walk on the moon. He served as the lunar module pilot during the Apollo 12 mission and was also a talented photographer and artist. Throughout his active career, Bean never publicly commented on the observation of a spacecraft. Bob Dean frequently incorporated photos like this into his lectures, providing people with intriguing insights into contact with extraterrestrials. His tenure at NATO provided him with extensive and remarkable knowledge about various extraterrestrial interactions with humanity. However, no one has publicly substantiated the claims made by this individual. To this day, NATO, NASA, and the Pentagon continue to deny any knowledge of the existence of extraterrestrials and their potential contacts with these entities. 12 species in many dimensions. As part of a UFO presentation at a university, Bob Dean made a highly intriguing claim that during his service, he was aware of the existence of 4 different extraterrestrial groups. By the time he retired, the number of known species had grown to over 12. An expert on extraterrestrial life even speculated the existence of more than 100 different extraterrestrial entities. One of the 4 primary groups of extraterrestrials likely bears such a strong resemblance to humans that these beings can blend in with humanity without being detected. Dean indicated that some of these extraterrestrials would hold significant positions in powerful institutions and that one should exercise caution regarding their activities. However, controlling something that almost nobody knows about is a challenging task. According to Dean's explanations, agencies like NASA and NATO collaborate with these entities, keeping regular citizens in the dark. This may sound alarming, but Dean also painted a positive picture of extraterrestrial life. Some of these species do not exist in the 3-dimensional world as we do but can interact with us, or we may interact with their dimensions unknowingly. Dean also mentioned that the visits from extraterrestrials go beyond interplanetary interactions and encompass interstellar and cosmic beings who have long transcended or adapted to the limitations of time and space. Einstein already postulated that there must be more dimensions than just space and time. However, during his lifetime, he refrained from describing them to avoid falling into the trap of conservative science and jeopardizing his reputation. Yet, privately, Einstein was a great mystic and delved deeply into such questions. One of those who dared to bring a 12-dimensional model to public attention was Burkhard Heim. He experienced exactly what Einstein had wanted to avoid. Heim was ostracized by conservative researchers and sidelined scientifically for his theory, which included the concept of God's dimension. Returning to Bob Dean and his captivating photographs, several of the pictures we're about to share were obtained by Dean from Dr. Norman Bergeron, a scientist and engineer at NASA Ames Research Center and Lockheed Martin. Dr. Bergeron played a pivotal role in the Voyager missions and spacecraft sent to capture images of Saturn, its rings, and satellites. It is believed that this photograph belongs to NASA itself, and Dr. Bergeron managed to obtain it before it was subjected to censorship by the agency. It shows a large unidentified flying object hovering very close to Saturn's rings. In a book written by Dr. Bergeron about Saturn's rings, he included photographs taken by the Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 spacecraft in 1980 and 1981. In these photos, scientists assert that Saturn's rings were partially formed by the activity of gigantic electromagnetic vehicles. These vehicles are controlled by intelligent beings. In this image, a massive spacecraft or space station approximately 3,000 kilometers in length is finally visible. Towards the end of the structure, there appears to be something resembling an exhaust port or some form of energy discharge. According to Bergeron and Dean, there are traces of maneuvering devices evident here. Bob Dean explained that other elliptical ships, about 11,265 kilometers in length, are currently orbiting Saturn within its rings, with exhaust emissions visible to our technology. A later analysis conducted by Bergeron and others led to the hypothesis that similar or related ships are orbiting around the Sun, Jupiter, and Uranus, harvesting energy and materials, and shaping the familiar rings through their activities. Dr. Bergeron concluded that these entities, which also operate in other dimensions, could even be inhabitants of Saturn and other seemingly inanimate planets in the solar system. The above image is also related to the Apollo 12 mission. The mysterious object was spotted by the Apollo astronauts as they were orbiting the moon. The next photograph was taken by astronaut Neil Armstrong as the astronauts looked out of the window of their small landing capsule. The next image depicts a mysterious disc-shaped object with a diameter of several hundred meters. It was captured as the astronauts were descending to the lunar surface to get a closer look at the Landsberg crater. It is claimed that the command to thoroughly investigate the Landsberg crater came directly from NASA to examine potential signs of extraterrestrial mining activity there. If you don't see a spaceship in these images, you probably have tennis balls for eyes. How are you feeling right now? Did you have doubts until this point? In these pictures, we can clearly see a spaceship above the crater. So, we do indeed have images that are not made publicly available, and information can only be leaked to insiders if they choose the uncomfortable path of taking action against the institutions that systematically conceal the truth from us. NASA's, the Pentagon's, and the U.S. government's strategy has always been the same: to label astronauts, pilots, scientists, and whistleblowers as lunatics, ridicule them, or exclude them from scientific circles. Dean never tired of speaking at gatherings of critically minded scientists and ufologists worldwide, sharing his knowledge gained during his 41 years of service in the U.S. By the way, he also commented on the origin of humans. Bob Dean had knowledge that the human race is a hybrid race, created through genetic modification by an extraterrestrial species around 200,000 years ago. Bob Dean passed away in Tucson, Arizona, on October 11, 2018, at the age of 89, leaving behind a legacy that we will likely continue to contemplate for a long time. Subscribe now because the best is yet to come.